Right now, I'm a software product consultant. So I work for a company called Tivix, which is a consulting firm based off in Silicon Valley. So I write programs there, and then I pretty much got promoted to a product role where I do product and engineering and a little bit of mix in that. It's kind of a weird role. And then I also work for a startup based in Shoreditch, not too far from this place, called CyberSmart. They're a security company. They build a SaaS product for automating your compliance, such as GDPR, IASME, whatever the UK standard is. So I help to build the product, and I lead the tech team there on part-time. I also work for another company called Uptree, which is a startup based in Shoreditch. What they do is they help high school students get graduate opportunities when they finished A-levels and also university. So these are the three things I currently work with. But in the past, I've been in the industry for 6 years. So I've been building software. So I worked with some big names like UK Sports and also like Cardiff University, building products and also writing code. So pretty much that's what I've been doing, and this is my current portfolio, what I do. To be honest, I actually took a product management course from product school. I'm a graduate from first batch of London product school. So the way I got into product school, the project management and product management in general is I've started as an engineer, so simple writing programs. My background, I studied business and computer science from Cardiff University. I graduated. So I worked for the university for a bit on a research project, which went very successful, and then pretty much moved from proper engineering to like engineering consulting. So I started doing like working for a marketing company where we build websites and like e-commerce solutions and stuff like that, and then pretty much gained my skills into working for a San Francisco based company doing engineering work. And then I did a lot of consulting, working with a client and in-house and trying to communicate, trying to pitch ideas and stuff like that. And I felt like there is a lot of product skills that I have, and I don't have a solid experience like methodologies. Like if you guys are learning product management and you want to get into product management, there's a lot of methodologies like user research, understanding your customer, showing empathy to your product, and building the right mindset towards your skill set. So I think I felt like I had the product skill, but I don't have the expertise of what I need to do. So I pretty much took this course. In my company, there was a need for somebody to take this responsibility. So we built so many products, and we are finding ways to make it as a SaaS product. SaaS solution, so we need to charge money and get people to pay for our products, but there are a lot of gaps in the products. So an engineer can't solve this. So we decided I need to take that step to try becoming a product person, answer the product questions, and then moved into product. So I've been doing product management for my company for almost 1 year. So it's not too bad and not too long, but it's been good. I love product work. So a little bit about product management in general is like product manager sits in between. He's like a CEO of a product. So let's take, you're building a MacBook. You will be the CEO of MacBook. You won't be CEO of Apple, but you will be CEO of MacBook. You need to care about the keyboard. You need to care about the trackpad, the monitor, what users really enjoy, the skill set and everything. So you need to care about that, and that's where you sit as a product manager. You need to understand your customer. There's this like 3 circles. So one is like business. So you need to know your business. You need to be the master of business. And also there's a tech. So you need to learn the tech. You need to understand what you're selling. Is it a tech product, a SaaS solution, or whatever that is? You need to know your tech. And then also you need to know design. So there's a crossover of 3 different skill set you bring as product manager. So that's product manager in general. So a lot of people, there's a pitfall in this industry. A lot of people say product managers is project managers. You are not responsible for taking care of the team or answering dev resources and all this stuff. You're not a project manager. You're never going to be a project manager. And lots of misconceptions. A lot of people in industry say, oh, we are hiring for product manager, but you need to manage the team. It's like, no, you're not supposed to manage the team. So there's a lot of these pitfalls, and this exists, including my own company, Tivix. We hire product managers because we want them to do project work, and it's wrong, completely wrong. But there are a lot of places like that. But if you go work for like companies like Google, they're purely product driven, yeah. If you're working in a startup, for example, when I was working for CyberSmart, there was only I was writing the first MVP. because I can code. So once I built the basic MVP product, we pitched, we got money, we got some investors coming and giving money, and then we decided like we need to branch out the team, start like building the tech side of team. So we hired like 3-4 engineers, a remote because it's cheaper. I was doing pretty much like lots of project management, like trying to create tickets and everything. But I kind of stepped back from this because it was too much of a work. Because you can be a good project manager, run the sprints, lead the team, make sure nobody's blocked. So that's the main goal of a project manager. Whereas a product manager comes in saying, what does user really care about? So you are looking at a problem in a different way, and you try to answer questions like developers don't care. Like for example, in the company, developers like, okay, this is my 7 task I'm going to work on. I'm going to finish my 7 tasks and I'm done with it. Whereas product managers more like, oh, if you finish these 7 tasks, will this 7 tasks really impact the user experience? So for example, let's take MacBook, right? Like the functionality of MacBook is giving a great product to the user. You might build this in metal or stainless steel, not aluminum. Will that really impact users? What value does brings? Does it bring the premium feel? Is that matches your customer? So those are the questions you'll be answering as product manager. You'll try to fit the product for the customer and try to see whether that is bringing value to your team, to your internal stakeholders, whether it's going to increase the Apple Store, whatever. Cool. So today I'm going to talk about overview of why coding is a useful skill. I know you guys are all into product and really interested in doing product management and product work. So I'll try to cover a little bit about the coding as well. And then I'll also be covering about my cohort, what I'm doing in London with my class. And also a last thing is Ask Me Anything. Very simple, easy along. I hope it's going to be interactive, right? So like I was talking to you guys, product managers play a key role in feasibility estimation and managing expectations. It's difficult trying to explain to business executives with minimal technical expertise on why something takes 3 months instead of 3 weeks. So this point, why I was trying to put it up together is like being a product manager, there are a lot of things you need to answer questions to. For example, when you meet your boss and they have a strict deadline, they have 7 tasks you need to finish, and each task would take a month. So there's 7 months worth of work. So being a product manager, you need to understand your tech. You need to understand what's going on within your team with regards to work, what's going on, what sort of functionality, what sort of APIs, what sort of back-end work they're doing. So you need to understand those areas to kind of estimate your work. You work with project managers and ask them questions, trying to see what's the blocking. So in those kind of cases, you come with business executives, say, this feature is so important that it takes X number of time to finish, because these features are going to bring X amount of money. The return on investment is like 7 weeks of dev work, but you're going to make $7,000 this year. So that's the product manager's way of approaching situation. So most of the product managers need to understand coding, understand what's happening. You don't need to learn the coding. You don't need to learn how to write a code or everything, but it's good to have skill. It's much appreciated when you have, when you have experience of what's going on and understand what the problem is, and taking that problem and explaining and spinning it around, explaining to your bosses, your CEOs, your tech team or whatever, and justifying your case is very important for product managers. So that's something I do on my day-to-day basis. For example, one of my use cases in my journey, I felt like so I work for Tivix and their sister company is Pfizer. So if anybody heard of Pfizer, Pfizer is a pharmaceutical company. So they are the biggest pharmaceutical company in the world. So I work with their animal healthcare company. So they have a sister company called Zoetis. So what I do is I help build digital products for dogs and also different animals. So for example, we build Fitbit for dogs. So simple explanation. So things like we care about what dog owners care. We'll see in terms of dog owners, like what does dog owner really care about? A lot of people say, oh, dog owners want to track everything. They want to know how many steps their dog walks, how many kilometers they run and jump and everything. That's nice to have, but dog owners really care about connecting with their pets. So those are the answers. Yep.
It's also, you do the product for the pets, but for the owner point of view, because the pet doesn't care. at all.
Yeah, pets don't care. Pets don't need to have Fitbit. They feel like, something is hanging in my neck. But, but it's good. But as long as it knows, like owner knows what's it doing, right? They're okay about it. I mean, lots of people we found really interesting problems. Like pet owners like to know where their dog went because the dog went missing, and like I couldn't find my dog. I wish I could track my pet through my tracker. But yeah, so these are the problems you need to address as product manager, and there are lots of limitations within these areas, like understanding the deadline, timeline, and all these things. Being a technology-driven person is very, very helpful being a good product manager, okay? The way I go about it is I work with a client principal. So the main client I work with is based in London. So he's a C-level director, and Zoetis is a big corporation. So and the innovation team is a very small thing, but there are directors within the firm where you are answering to everyday basis, and they are very picky because the deadlines are crawling everywhere, and like there's so much to do and very less time. So we need to be very picky on what features we develop and what functionality we do, and you need to have a solid use case. So the way I would justify my use case is data analytics. So I go into Mixpanel, or we use something called Metabase, which is a database analytics tool. So what it does is reads all your data in the database and crunches numbers. You could say, I want to know users who signed up from the last 30 days who are paying customers and using this feature. So you can go into those details. So once we get all these details, I try to make a graph saying like, where are we? What does it? Where are we now? What's the gap? And what we need to do to fill the gap. Simple. These 3 points would get you to figure out those gaps. And you can easily justify yourself, like saying, hey, this is what data says. You can't lie now. You can't just make assumptions. So a lot of misconceptions we had in our work at the beginning is assumptions, a lot of assumptions. Okay, clients makes, hey, I think pet owners really care about having this functionality. We need to definitely build it. It is a must. We are not releasing this product without this functionality. Then like, no, I'll prove you why. So that's a hard chat. But yeah, I do struggle as well. But like these are the ways I try to come up with ideas, trying to say these are the problems, this is the data says, and this is how we're going to solve it, and let's do this, and that's how I do it. Yeah, go for it.
This sounds like more business analyst side of things, because that's what the business analyst does.
Cool. Yes. A business analytics is a type of people who care so much about the requirements. So here, you're not trying to do requirements. So business analysts is solid people who are like, okay, this is what client says, this is what we're going to have, what is the value? So they do all the requirement side of things. But product manager is a little different. They show empathy to customers. So empathy in the sense like, you might not, so for example, you want to make, so one of the use cases in the world, there was one of the videos I was been watching, there was a use case, I think it's Microsoft, another company, they were trying to test the design thinking and being very lean thinkers, and product is one of the things they were trying to build. So the product was to build an alarm clock for kids. Okay, so you're a product manager, and your goal is to build an alarm clock for kids. Okay, business analyst would take the clock in and out, write the requirements, get all the estimates, get all the planning, get everything ready to run the project, right? That's what business analyst does. Product managers doesn't do that. So the way we do is like, we try to understand the problem. It's like, why do we need a clock? Okay, do we need a clock because kids need to wake up early? Okay, kids need to wake up early. Why do they need to wake up early? Because they need to go for an exercise in the morning. Okay, why exercising in the morning is important? So they can get fit, so they don't become lazy and chubby, So you try to answer all these questions. At the end of the day, the goal is to be more healthy. So you realize the fitness is the main goal. And then you start thinking about how can we make kids more interactive. Waking up in the morning and buying an alarm clock is not a good solution. So what they end up doing is building, after all the discussions and understanding customers, speaking to the customer's client and understanding what the problem, what the difficulties would be, waking up in early, trying to be fit, it's not a good thing. So they decided to buy a pedometer for every kid, and the problem was solved. So the company has to make pedometer, not alarm clocks. So product managers would think like that. They think about what building the product is not the first thing they would do. They would not go into solution at all. As a product manager, you need to step back from thinking problems, thinking of solutions right away. I do that because coming from engineering point of view, so I think there's one engineer here as well. Coming from engineering point of view, I easily come to conclusions saying, oh yeah, this is the way to go. We build a solution because it's going to work. But actually, I should not do that. I should step back. So like, hey guys, suggest me an idea, right? So I should go in a different approach. And I think that's what a product managers would do. A very good example is, I don't know whether you guys heard about this thing. Have you guys heard about, I can't remember this thing, jobs to be done framework. Has anybody heard of jobs to be done framework? So jobs to be done is like, for example, I need water, let's say. Jobs to be done is like, I need water, and that's the job that needs to be done. Who can I employ to make sure this job is done? I can employ a cup, I can employ a bottle, I can employ whatever I wanted. Okay, so another story around this is McDonald's. So McDonald's sells breakfast food, right? Like, so they sell like sandwiches, egg muffins, blah, blah, blah. You guys are experts as well, so who doesn't like McDonald's, right? So McDonald's sells so many products. So one of the products they were surprised, which sells in the morning, was milkshake. So McDonald's sells more milkshakes in the morning than any other products. McDonald's can't understand why. So they're like, why do we sell milkshakes? I don't understand, why do we sell milkshakes? We sell milkshakes quite a lot in the morning. Why? It's realized, so they appointed a company to come and do a research and try to understand the product and like why the milkshake is more sold in the morning. So they were trying to analyze like timing calculation and everything, and they realized this is the conclusion. The conclusion was this: like they sell more milkshakes because a lot of people who drive to work in the morning at 8 a.m. they're very hungry, so they want to have a breakfast. The job to be done is they're hungry, they need to be fed, so when they get to the office, they're full. So they thought Snickers could do a job, but actually Snickers is too short. It's hard to bite it when you're driving. So burger, very hard to eat, and it gets clumsy if you didn't handle it well. And as soon as you eat your burger, you go to your office, you'll still become hungry. So they tried different solutions. The final solution they came up with is milkshake. Because milkshake has the thin straw. If you ever went to McDonald's, you would notice McDonald's always has a thin straw. It doesn't have a fat straw. So if you go to Five Guys or other restaurants, you'll find it's a fat straw. But McDonald's has thin straw because you can suck for a very long time. So this guy who drives to work, takes 30 minutes, a decent 30 minutes to get to the office. So he sucks on that straw for 30 minutes. So he's still taking food. Once he gets to the office, his stomach is full, ready to go rolling. So McDonald's realized that's the jobs to be done. So the jobs to be done is a milkshake. That's the jobs does better than any other thing. And it's cheap, it's a good value, makes you feel, get to the point. So these are the frameworks. There is a massive theory around jobs to be done itself. So you can go look into Nike. So Nike is a brand where they fully follow jobs to be done. Intercom is another company who uses this chat client for. You must have used Intercom. If you go to some websites, you must have noticed a chat thingy. Even if you went to product school's website, you'll find a chat thingy. They love jobs to be done. They celebrate jobs to be done, you know. So jobs to be done is an amazing framework if you're trying to solve empathy problems, understanding your customer, trying to figure out what's the best solution for something. And it's great if you're building a startup or a new company or trying to build, if you're an engineer trying to build your own product. Think jobs to be done, you will find your solutions much more simpler than feature-wise. Cool. So that's the first one. Second one, why able to understand specifically what the problems we are technically facing and how your teams is resolving it, and ability to manipulate HTML view and achieve quick gains without getting hold of devs. So this is another situation where like product managers face quite a lot. It's like you as a product manager, you don't get in the way. So your job is like you don't get in the way in sense like your devs will be doing a lot of work, your team will be doing a lot of work, and you as your job, you're not supposed to ask them like, hey, can I take away 10 minutes of your time or 20 minutes? You can do that, but generally you don't want to stop them from their flow. They are busy with their sprints. They're trying to get through their day. They have lots of requirements they need to fulfill. There are a lot of things you don't want to stop them, take their time and do a research or whatever. So you can't take 5 hours. It's very expensive to do that. So learning coding is one of the ways where you can manipulate, like in our course, we're going to teach about HTML and CSS and stuff like that. So if you visited any website in Google Chrome or any other browser, you can right-click on it and you can click on Inspect Element. And you can see the HTML code, and you can manipulate a few things, like I'm going to change the background to white and black. So you can do a few things. And these quick wins are very helpful, especially when you're trying to make a point to your team, saying, oh, this is the problem, and I think having another tab would be really useful. But this is how I mocked up through HTML changes and everything. So you do inspect element, change a few things, prove your point, get to your CEO and get it approved, and start developing and trying to make results. So you're pretty much cutting down the cost of designer and also engineer to kind of consult you and answer those problems. So that's something we would teach in our course as well. So that's something I was trying to talk to you about. And also being a technically driven person is very useful, especially when you're trying to understand the gaps, especially when your engineer comes and says, hey, we have an API issue, and everybody will be like, what's API, So trying to understand technical aspects of what makes an app work, especially if you're working for a company where they build iPhone apps and web apps, you need to take that initiative to learn a bit more about the product. You are the product pro. So if you're going to work as a product manager, you will be like the de facto expert of that field. So anybody can come to you, you know answers, or you know where to point the answers. So that is the key goal. So based on that saying, you need to learn quite a lot about the code and how everything works, and understand concepts behind how a pull request, understanding all the jargon words, like, why dev, you would go to dev and it's like, hey, where's your work? Where are you doing? And how's things getting along? He could say, I've sent a pull request and I'm waiting. And you might not understand that, but it's basically saying I've done my work and I pushed it to the cloud and it's waiting for somebody to approve. So you need to learn all these jargons. And it's very important because as a product managers, when you speak to devs, you need to be very credible. One of the biggest thing lies to product managers is communication. So you have to be strong in communication. You have to get people to think in your way. So you should read a lot of books about influencing people. So influence is a very strong play. So when you're trying to get your developers to respect you and your CEOs to respect you, there's a lot of influence that needs to be done. And that influence nobody can give it to you other than you personally learning little bits here and there out of your comfort zone and getting there with much more credibility and saying, hey, this is what I know, and I think I know I've seen that and I've seen your pull request. What are we doing next? It's a much better question than saying, where are you right now, and I don't know what you're saying. So product managers need to learn a lot of this, and that's what we'll be covering in our course a little bit as well. So that's another one. And also, why do you need to learn coding? If you've never done coding before in your life, I will suggest you. I'm an evangelist big time. Coding is great. You know why? You can do crazy things, literally crazy things. I'll give you an example of crazy things, what I do in my company. You'll start laughing. We have Slack. Anybody use Slack? I think everybody uses Slack. So we have a channel in my company in Tivix called Random. I know they'll be watching this if they're watching it. It's a secret, nobody knows it. So basically what I did was I wrote a Python program. So what it does is it goes to Google, searches for cute chameleon photos, and finds the high HD version of the cute chameleon, and downloads it and uploads it in my name in Slack every day at 4 p.m. And it's a random. So it's absolutely random. Nobody knows why it's doing. It's like, Girish is posting this amazing chameleon, and I don't know why. Everybody's in a mystery. So I don't want to reveal it to them unless they see this video, if they're interested, right? So yeah, this is a funny thing we do. But also there's my first coding exercise I did was, Billboard. There's a website called Billboard, which is top 100 songs if you're into music and if you like the commercial stuff. There is a website called Billboard Top 100 where it gives you a list of all the 100 songs which are trending. DJ Khaled and Justin Bieber, whatever, right? So there's famous musicians, right? So what I did was I wrote a program which scrapes the website, so which is actually takes all the titles and the artist name and the music album name and the producer, whatever. So all the details and I search that in YouTube, finds the top video I get, and put them in a YouTube playlist. And it's still there right now. So if you, it's called Paperlist. paperlist.co. So if that's the website, it still works. It's been built like 7 years ago or 8 years ago, and it still works. So it's a very funny project because I like watching top 100 videos, which I usually copy the names and go to YouTube and search for myself. But instead of me doing that, I built my own program. So if you learn how to do it, like writing programs, you can automate some of your daily tasks. Even simple things like, I need to do my house report. I need to know how effective, how profitable am I with my rent paying versus my income earning, and I need to find the most equilibrium spot of spending my money, in London, because it's a very expensive city. So you can write a program for that as well. So you can use a Python or any Ruby on Rails or whatever, and just write a code which does that matrix, and you can evaluate your situation much better. And you can use machine learning and connect it to your bank API and see how much you're spending, and then pretty much predict what you might end up having in the next 5 years or whatever. So these are things you could do by writing programs. Or if you're an Instagram lover, you can also automatically post photos of yourself every 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. You can do a lot of fun things. So programming is generally fun to do, and it's a lot of cool things you can end up doing, and you would be really proud of it. So if you've never done coding, I would say take a class, and it's a fun thing to do when you see your first program coming to life and like, shit, this is Hello World. It's like, yay, it's great. So that's a really good experience. So definitely try programming if you've never given a thought. Even if you're not signing up to product school, I personally can give you a small advice on like where to start as well. So programming is such a fun thing to do. So another thing is like if you're learning programming, it's a big pit hole. So you can start anywhere and go anywhere and like, I didn't understand anything, So a little bit of everything is good. So I classify myself as a T-type developer. So T, like I learn a little bit of everything. I'm not good at anything, but I'm good at one thing. So that's T. So like I learn a little bit of everything, just one thing focused fully. So my expertise comes in Python, but I know Ruby on Rails. I've been doing Ruby on Rails for a while as well. So I would say like there are so many areas you can start. You can start with backend. You can start with front end. You can start learning frameworks. You can learn JavaScript. There are so many things. There are some really good tutorials. There are so many factors you need to consider when you're learning coding. Things like how great the framework is. Ruby on Rails has been there for so many years. Companies like Shopify, GitHub. This GitHub is built on Ruby on Rails, for example. So there's so many products built on Ruby on Rails. Ruby on Rails is such a great framework. So many companies are using it. Python is used by Facebook, used by big players like Google. And also like Instagram is built on Django, so it's another framework. Yeah, go for it.
These frameworks, are they used for apps as well?
Yes. So Ruby on Rails it sits in the backend. So Ruby on Rails will be in the backend side of your application. Backend is something where the server in the cloud, it runs the program where you can't see it, but you can write a front end, which will be a layer where you can see it visually, and that can connect to a backend. Sometimes the backend systems can also come with front-end inbuilt, which is like a view which sits in the same layer, or sometimes you can build a separate front-end as well. So the same front-end applies like a mobile app. It's considered as a front-end. So it's like mobile which talks to the backend server. So Ruby on Rails can be in the back. We'll be calling the APIs via phone and stuff like that.
So all this is backend?
No, so JavaScript is a front-end stuff. But it's more like we'll not be learning about a framework. We'll be learning about basic manipulation of JavaScript and how JavaScript will be useful in terms of it's to get you started. JavaScript is a big territory. Once you get into JavaScript, you're in a big pit hole. So there's so much to learn because JavaScript is like massive. So we'll be learning about basic UI components around JavaScript. So that's something we'll do. But we'll do a little bit of everything. So like basic HTML, basic GitHub to get you started, understand why these concepts exist. I don't want to go to question time. And also we'll be talking about like Ruby on Rails, the backend framework, and also like things like automatic testing, which is most important to product managers. If you're product managers, you care about how much your test coverage is. So when you answer the questions to your client saying, oh, we are 100% covered, we know all our functionalities work. For example, you might launch a functionality and you'll be expecting, oh, now the time for money, where is the money? It's not coming in. The functionality should be working, but actually it's not working. Something is failing. You need to know an automatic testing or understand what automatic testing is so you can make decisions saying like, oh, some things are failing, so makes sense this feature doesn't work now. So those are kind of decisions is where automatic testing is useful. And also we learn all these things, we build a project, and then we launch it in a website, a server, So in this case, we use something called Heroku, which is based off AWS. We learn, understand the concepts around that, and then a little bit of JavaScript to kind of cover it off. So we'll do a little bit of everything. So whereas you understand the concept of how to build a website, how everything works, and then you can go off on a tangent to learn more and become expert in the field. These guidance are very useful to have in general, I would say. So, but without knowing this, you would not able to start something like massively. So you need to start somewhere small. So this is the first start, I would say. It goes very bare minimum. So if you've never done programming, this course is recommended because it starts from scratch. Okay, so that's the course. And then question time. So that covers everything which I need to see. It's very simple, I said, 3 topics.
You say you're from an engineering background.
Yes.
And now you're tech. So I just wanted to know what the transition was.
So my transition, so I used to write code almost like 90% of my job or 80% of my job. I started off 100%, slowly moved into consulting. I was telling you about where I was talking to clients, answering all the questions they have, and also trying to figure out problems in different viewpoint. I had a chance to run a project myself as well. One of the projects we launched in the App Store. We had a resource problems. I had to do a little bit of project management, and I also ran the team. So there was a little bit of team management experience I had. And then there was a demand for product managers in the company. So like we realized we built so many products. I work for this corporation as Zoetis, where they not really driven on making money right away. They are doing a lot of pilots. So every project was run on pilots, and like we launch it, we'll see how many users really use the product, and then we'll test it if there's a market. So that's the area it was doing. So we launched 8 products, and 8 products were really good, but we realized that we have a problem. So like we don't know how to monetize this, and how can we bring revenue from this. And there was a lot of gap, but we are purely engineering driven team. So we write the software and we release it. And there was a problems in like areas where like user rates are not, like we spent like 9 months building a GPS functionality, but only 1 customer used it. So things like that were problems, and we felt like, wow, why is there so many assumptions we made were wrong? So there was this question we were trying to figure out, and then there was like, I started doing research, and I was learning jobs to be done. I was doing a lot of these extra research things, and I was trying to present to my clients saying, hey, these are the mistakes we might be considering doing. And then I found there was a gap, and there's like, oh, this is product management pretty much. Just like, taking ownership of the product. No developers goes beyond 9 to 5 to go do these things. So I cared about the product. I really was driven by, I want the product to be whole, like it needs to be completed. So that was something I had personally in my passion. If you don't like any of these things, you would not become a product manager, but you have to you have to have passion for what you're doing. And like I had it, I was like, I want to do this, and I want to make sure this product is right. It's so sad to do 7 months of work and only 1 customer using it. What could be the problem? So those are the questions I answered, and ended up being a product manager. So then I said like, I want to take this course. My company paid for me, and I took the course in product school. And then pretty much I've learned a lot of skill set around the framework around how product management works. And then pretty much we took off from there. So yeah, go for it.
So this is for both like software engineering and product management. If you're entering the industry as a software engineer or product manager, do you have a slant towards what kind of company you should go work for? So like a smaller company where you might have more autonomy versus a larger where you have mentorship, but you don't have autonomy and flexible knowledge.
Yep. Cool, awesome. Great question, to be honest. One of the persons we hired in our company, we are a small company. We have a team of 7-8 people, and then we have 20 engineers, and then team of 7 people in the office. 20 engineers work in Poland. So we are I would say we are a startup style, right? Like it's a very small company. We hired a product manager who came join the company. She's 1 year experienced in product management, and she found it really hard to work with us. Being honest, it's because of a lot of gaps. We are new ourselves. We don't know how product management works, and a lot of startups having this knowledge gap between what they know of the work that you do, and also a lot of work is on autonomy. Like you go off in a tangent, figure out a problem, come back with a solution. Like the startup has a lot of that. So working with young companies, you have this gap where like you will be given full autonomy. So like, hey, do figure out problems, and you need to, maybe you're answerable to your work on your day-to-day basis, but you have a lot of gap of thinking, and which is great if you're a budding product manager. If you're that kind of a person where I'm a person, I can take responsibility and I can find my own work and I can figure out, I'm a self-starter. So if you're that kind of a person, work in a startup because you will struggle, but that 1 year of struggle is going to be worth a lot of time for you learning product, because you will be learning lots of things, because you will have access to everything and everything is in your hand. You can speak to your clients, you can speak to your customers, you can speak to a lot of people, you can speak to stakeholders. You can understand a lot of these areas really quickly as starting from a startup point of view. But if you're a type of person where like, I would like to have some mentorship so I could learn with the proper way, so some people are like that, no problem. Is if you like that kind of experience and if you want somebody who's an expert in the industry, worked in the industry for 5-6 years, felt the problems, learned all the problems, and you wanted to play safe, wanted to learn from the best, then go work in a big company where you would learn from the experts who are in the industry and you'll get mentored. But again, in that company, there's a disadvantage is that you don't have autonomy. So you have to work what your senior product managers or your product lead says in your company. So there's that kind of thing. But also in the startups, you do work with some head of product or like senior product managers, but you will more likely to share the work rather than him. There's a mentorship going around there as well. So there's a little bit of gap, but be careful, like answer these questions like, what they really expect out of you. Things like, I want you to do project management a little bit, So those are things exist, but be very careful. Startups don't know where to draw the expectations. So that's something you need to be careful of. That's the disadvantage of startups.
How do you find working with the designers and the developers? Like, do you give them tasks and then set deadlines, or do you leave that to the project manager? So how do you work with them?
Cool. So the way I would work is like I work problem by problem basis in my company. So we take, for example, let's take the GPS functionality which didn't work, and I try to see what's the problem. Is this the functionality? I'll try to ask these questions, try to figure out. I try to articulate the problem, take a mind map, try to draw all the problems, and I'll try to ask users what went wrong. I try to ask managers, really, and developers as well. Hey, what do you think? How did you think you built your feature? Just an interview, trying to understand and get the picture, so I know everybody's viewpoint. So as a product manager, you don't get a say. So I don't get a say. I just facilitate this say. So that's what I try to do. So try to ask everybody and get the context, get the real problem, get the gist of it, and then try to test, try to make hypothesis, saying like, okay, if we fix this, okay, will that solve the problem? If we remove the functionality, will that solve the problem? Or if we're going to add another functionality towards it, how can we improve it? So then if I'm going to add a functionality, I go to my client and propose this idea saying, I'm going to add this functionality. I want to try it out. It only takes, I will speak to a dev. I'll speak to a designer saying, how long will it take for you to design this? How long will you take your devs to design it? So devs to build it. So I'll try to get an estimate of 6 weeks. Okay, 6 weeks to build this feature, and it's just going to be a test. It can be good, it can be bad, but I don't know. So I'm going to take that 6 weeks as estimation, go to my client, pitch it, saying, hey, I need 6 weeks of time. Can we allot it? Then the project manager comes in. I write what I want, like as a spec. I write the documentation because I need to be very clear. Sometimes when you say, it doesn't work, so you need to write it down. So I try to write it down, make a documentation with screenshots saying, this is what I expect. That's why HTML is good, because I try to manipulate the HTML or whatever. Try to get screenshots saying, this is what I want this functionality to be done. This is the way I want it to be done. So then I give it to project manager and say, run this for me. And I'll check in with the designers and product managers, designer and project manager and the engineering team to see how it's going. And I'll be part of the sprints, so I will know the demo and everything. So I will try not to get into work. So I don't want to know every tiny details. So this is the flow I do actually. So I don't try to get into sprints. I don't want to run the sprints. I don't want to tell what developers should do on an everyday basis, because that's not my job.
You're not micromanaging the team.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not micromanaging it, and I don't need to. There's a project manager who's doing it for me. So, and I can save a lot of time while that is happening, that process, I can figure out other things, and I can answer a few bits or extend that functionality if it's required. I can use that time to do something else.
Is there ever any worry that like you said, 6 weeks, you kind of go off, do your own thing, you come back, it's completely different thing?
No, that's what I check in with developers now and then. So I'll be part of the sprints. I will check with the project manager, says, let's say project manager is not a good person, right? It's very rare. I'm just making an assumption. He's going to say the demo is the last day. There's no demo in between. Demo is the last day. You will never get to see how it's going, but you only get to see the final shot. It's like, that's unfair. I will be like, dude, let's make an adjustment. Can we make it like 3 different sprints? So I can get to see like 2 weeks worth, so 6 weeks, so 2 weeks every time, so I can see it. And so even if he disagrees, oh, blah, 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 I need to get my team, blah, 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 then I need to deal with this. So this is where the project management communication comes in place. So you need to deal with it, and if the worst case comes, it'll very unlikely to happen. If it comes that way, I would not be aggressive and do anything, but I will try to go into developers and in designers and ask them like, how's it going? Is there anything you need help with? Do you find the specs all right? Do you understand everything? Can I see what you have so far? Can we have like 5 to 10 minutes chat is really useful. So how it's going, even if it's fully not enough. That's why product managers don't get in the way. So you're not getting in the way. You're just trying to facilitate, just see if everything is going. So that's how I would approach.
You also have a product owner where you stick to, or you do not have an outside function yourself as a product owner?
So it's an interesting question. So product owner's job in sprint.
So it's more technical than
yes. Yeah. So product owner is project managers can also become a product owner. So product owner is a person who cares about the sprint quite a lot. So he works with the sprint, a Scrum master, let's say, or your project manager. He works with quite a lot of time with them, so trying to make sure they have enough features to work at the right time. So every sprint would have like 3 features or 1 feature you're working towards. If you have that many features running towards you, you would have a sprint velocity. So that means like, this team will finish 7 features in a month. So that's the velocity, let's say. A product owner would really plan out the purity of what comes next. So product owner is more, that's what he does primarily as a role. It's a function more like a job itself. There are companies where they have massive sprints. There will be dedicated product owners.
Yeah, they groom the product.
They groom the backlog. They prioritize all the work. So that's more inclined to technical development and everything. But the product owners can switch jobs. They can do user research and stuff like that. But project managers, they do everything, So I also do backlog grooming, but I don't do too much of it. I try to do high level and just tell the PM to manage it, project manager to manage it. So, but yeah, product owners, there are companies where dedicatedly hire product owners, where you just purely, job is to manage the sprint and facilitate the sprint velocity with the purity work. Yeah, there's a chance you might end up doing that as well. But you can look up online. You'll find a lot of resources around what his product owner job is.
Yeah, just because I was working in operations. I'm trying to get into development. And so I did like a Scrum Master certification course, etc. But a lot of things that you are saying here is not something that is in the Scrum Master guidelines, right? So there is no role of product manager. There is no role of project manager.
Yeah, in Scrum, yes.
What is this agile? Is this another thing? It's like
yeah. So reality, theory, it looks great, right? Like theory is like everybody dreams. Like even my company or every startups I work with, they always dream about the ultimate, the gold standard of Scrum planning. Because you guys all work in the company, right? Like, does anybody work with Scrum? Do you work with Scrum? Yeah, would you work with Scrum, right? So can you guys tell me, is ever a Scrum been so properly planned? Yeah, it's true. I'm a witness because I worked with many companies and I realized Scrum, it's not all the time perfectly implemented. So, and people in Scrum always have different responsibilities. Like, for example, your Scrum master would be your project manager. Like, for example, the big companies really, so if you go to Deloitte, I don't want to say these things. If you work with Deloitte, for example, big companies, so they have a massive sprint plan or sprint process. So they're very extensive. They're like, if you go, the sprint is most lenient and agile form of things, right? Like it's only 5 people involved, getting things faster, ship it within a week. But if you see Deloitte sprint planning, the sprint cycle, it's massive. It's like all over the place. They have so many procedures. It's making a corporate big company work in a sprint agile manner. It's very difficult. You can never fulfill all the concepts around a sprint and agile planning. It's never going to work. It's not 100% the right thing. It's not necessarily the best thing for a company. So it depends on how your organization works and what's best for your organization. In a startup, for example, in CyberSmart, we do 2 different sprints. So we have this slow sprint. So it's like, so when I mean slow sprint, it's like same sprint. It's like 2 weeks long. Each sprint is 2 weeks long. But we have 2 different boards. One is an agile board. One is a Kanban board. Kanban is most the fire. Like literally, we need to work Kanban. We need to close the Kanban board before we touch the sprint board. So like the agile board is never touched till the Kanban is burned down. But some people use that kind of methodology. Some people don't. But it's still agile, but still different. But it still beats the purpose of making sure the things run well for the company. So there you can see that flexibility in lots of companies. Some project managers will be the product owner, will be the sprint master, Scrum master, and some product managers will be the product owners of the sprint. So sometimes product owners can be the client as well. The client will be like, this is my product, so I'm the product owner. So you literally talk to me to know everything. They are not trained to really give you the right answers as well. So like, it's based on their mood. They'll be like, oh, today I want this color. Tomorrow I want the red color. Oh, why is this so pointy? I want it to be bald. I don't want it to be pointy. So things like that would come in the last minute. So you need to make a lot of drafts around that as well. So it's a lot of flexibility and lots of changes could vary company to company. And it's never always the perfect project. The theory is different from practicality, from my experience. But it's good to learn about like theories because a lot of people don't know the theory and do the sprint planning and they get it all wrong. So it's good to know the theory. So because theory is really helpful for doing the work and getting everything right. I met a lot of project managers who don't have any idea of Scrum and they'll just try to make Scrum and they're like, oh, we are having demo this. No, it's wrong. But definitely like there is a good thing to do. But there's a lot of differences within companies, how they work. Cool.